Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you for coming to today's presentation. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. For those of you where this is your first visit to Chapman Construction, welcome, and we're glad to see you here. Today we have a terrific presentation for you. If I may, I'll introduce our speaker, Anita Hagspiel, who has more than 2 decades of energy efficiency and business management experience. During her 15 years at National Grid, Anita managed and administered 5 energy efficiency programs, developing a strong team of consultants and vendors who created a step-by-step process addressing the energy efficiency needs of big business. Anita is a nationally recognized speaker on this subject and has been a member of the Association of Energy Efficiency Professionals and the Consortium of Energy Efficiency. She's a graduate of Worcester Polytechnic Institute of Industrial Management and is presently employed by Rethinking Power Management, LLC. Please welcome Anita Hagspiel.
So do you want to
briefly, yeah, at the end of Anita's presentation, Molly Pigeon from IFMA will come up and briefly describe the IFMA program for the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is the topic of today's presentation. And if you have not signed in, please do, because you can receive AIA credit and LEED CMP credit for your attendance and participation in today's presentation. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you. So now you are going to do the other. You weren't going to.
Oh,
no, I thought you were doing that.
If you'd like. Yeah, absolutely. Let's
Yeah,
go
I
back
thought you
one.
were doing
Just
that.
for, as a matter of practice here, we'll go back up. These are required slides stating that, in fact, Chapman is a registered provider for education, and you can get credit for that. And also, as a USGBC education provider member, you can receive credits, and that's why you sign in. And here are the learning objectives.
Well,
now, this is up to you now. I'll let you roll with this one.
Well, before I begin, I just want to, and I know I have to stay behind this on camera here, I want to welcome you again and just reintroduce myself with one correction. I actually was at National Grid for 22 years, and I just recently retired. So I'm on an exciting role here in July, and I'm very pleased to say I'm working for Eileen Mason at Rethinking Power Management, and we're doing a lot of the same energy efficiency work as I did at National Grid, and you'll be hearing some reference to that during my presentation. So I actually thought Guy was doing the learning objectives, but I think what I'd like to say here is that the learning objectives today is to give you a really nice overview about EPA Energy Star Portfolio Manager to really understand, because a lot of people have a little bit of discomfort when they're learning something new, and I guess I want a show of hands on how many of you have gone into the website, know what EPA Energy Star, are familiar. So you'll be hearing some things here today that are probably pretty similar to what you're used to, and I probably, because of the show of hands, won't give the homework assignment I was thinking of, because it looks like many of you probably have already done that. But I really want to give you the overview, the simplicity of the process, and the importance of it. And I think that after that, I also want you to know that's one thing that I can speak for me personally, that if you have any other questions that don't get answered today, I'm happy to answer those afterwards. So if there's any questions, feel free to interrupt. And I think at this point, I'm just going to go right ahead. So the Be a Star, I thought Molly was going to do this. So is this something you'll talk about that after? Okay. So this is really a wonderful slide, because it's actually showing, and I want to get my pointer, in the billions of kWh savings. If you look at 2000 all the way up to 2010, there's a momentum, a development of increase of savings on billions of kWh. So right here is really that 50 billions of kWh savings all the way up to over 200 billions of kWh savings. And the significance here is that not only are you saving kWh, you're saving greenhouse gas emissions and basically those dollars. So now we're going to have a little fun, because it's important to give you the pros and cons. And as many of you raised your hands knowing about EPA Energy Star, there are much more pros than cons here. And I think the important thing with EPA Energy Star Portfolio Manager is that it is a gauge. It's a good understanding about your building. It's really giving you that gauge to then find out the performance. It's that 50,000 view of that building. So you're really going on the square footage, you're going on the occupants of the building, and you're going on the computers and some other data that you'll see. So the pros are, Portfolio Manager is a web-based interactive energy management tool that allows you to track and assess that energy and water consumption across the entire portfolio of your facilities. And it's in a secure online environment. And some other pros with that, it produces weather, normalized, and standardized metrics. It's industry accepted. It's a comprehensive development process. It has extensive research and databases. There are people at EPA Energy Star that are experienced engineers and are constantly trying to improve. Portfolio Manager is an objective, unbiased analytical tool, and most of all, it's internationally recognized symbol. Now, as far as the con, from that 1 to 100% here, you're actually, it doesn't cover all building types for the building types that are available to people to benchmark and then maybe apply for that Energy Star labeling. So I'd like to just call out those space types. I know a lot of you here are for offices, but I thought it was important to just give you a few of those to let you understand. We have bank and financial institutions, courthouses, data centers, dormitories, wide variety, hospitals, hotels, K through 12 schools, and at National Grid we did a lot of that with one of the programs that I managed. Benchmarking was key for that. Medical offices, office buildings, which a lot of you I know are building owners, retail stores, supermarkets, warehouses, and wastewater treatment plants. And that is a huge energy guzzler. And just this year they added the House of Worship, which I know again at Energy Star they were really always calling and asking how they could save energy, and that was just a wonderful creation for Portfolio Manager to get into. So getting back to the pros and cons, there's only really one small con, and that is the building types that aren't available cannot go for that Energy Star labeling. Otherwise, you can benchmark the building, you can get that energy intensity, and it's encouraged for everyone to be benchmarking. Any questions?
So what's an example of a building that doesn't fall into the building type?
Well, I would say multifamily, but multifamily just got accredited to this year, so that would have been one that I would have probably said maybe about, 6 or 8 months ago, right? I think they just came on.
The benchmarking done yet? It's the big question is what are the benchmarks for multifamily?
It has a building type, but it doesn't have a rating system for it. So it does have a category where you can put in the initial data, but they don't have a rating system because of the diversity of the building.
So, but almost the vast majority of building types are covered, sounds like.
Yes, and
Convention centers aren't, right? Is that correct? Convention centers?
convention centers and large facilities like that, like Foxborough Stadium, you definitely couldn't do that. But the combination buildings, that's right. That's when you run into a little bit of trouble with it.
Because of the benchmarking principle.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the value? So benchmarking your buildings, energy performance is a key first step to understanding and reducing energy consumption and your carbon footprint. All buildings can access energy performance. All buildings really with water efficiency and carbon emissions using Portfolio Manager. So you have 8 bullets there that really prove all of these, that there's great value in benchmarking your building. And there was a great quote that I'll come to today that is a quip that Energy Star uses that I think you'll find very interesting. And the wonderful scale. So Energy Star uses this scale, and it's really the worst performing building up to the best performing building. And the scale is really going on the information that you enter into Energy Star. And what it really is again, that square footage, the occupancy, and location is important. And all of that information that you go in and ends up calculating, and it was on an old CBEX database, and they are calculating that, and the score then comes out after all of that information is entered. And typically, a good example is K through 12 schools, for example, come in around 50, 45, 50. Now, if you look at this wonderful building that you're sitting in tonight, this is an Energy Star labeled building and a Platinum LEED certified building. And so anything over 75% is a high performing type of building, and that's when you are eligible to go for that EPA Energy Star labeling process. Any questions with the graph? Okay. So here are here's the information that we need to start. And I think important to note that those folks that haven't been on the EPA Energy Star website, this website here, and I'll be happy to really hand that out to you afterwards, is a great tutorial. It's an animated tutorial that will really give you a lot of information, and I thank you, Courtney, for putting that on. But typically you're entering that name and you create that password, and when you enter that user logon, that's it. You don't have another user name. That's the one you are keeping. And the password, they encourage that you really do change that periodically, just for safety reasons. Your building and street address, all of this is pretty straightforward. And it says 12 months of data. It's really a scale of 12 to 48 months. And typically, if you want to have an engineering firm come in and do an audit of your building, they like to work with 24 months. But when you see the process of entering the information, it's pretty straightforward, and it's just really a matter of getting all your bills and your usage in line. Okay, and I'm so happy that this is in here now, because this is really a good, for those folks who haven't seen any of this and haven't done any data entry, this is really a great process of starting off. You're adding a space. And so you need to get the type of facility. You have to add your all of this information. And once you populate all that, it then carries over to when you're finally able to, and we'll get to that screen. Okay. All right, now I want to walk you through this part pretty detailed. So the general information, and so this area here, the general information, is just basically populating the information you just saw in that previous screen. And that really gives you eventually, when everything is populated, you'll get your base rating and your current rating. And so there's 6 areas here. Your general information, then you have your facility performance, and the information that goes in that, including that current rating, that Energy Star rating. This doesn't get populated until after you've entered everything that you need to enter about your buildings. And then there's the space use. Space use is really important. It really defines the various spaces within the building, and we're going to go to that in a minute because I'll walk you through what needs to be entered for that, and we're going to give an example of an office space. The energy meters, and we'll also be walking you through that. This is where we get a little more detailed for you to just show you the importance of the various information that they do require. And the water metering doesn't show here, and the thing that I think is important to say at this point is that you're entering the usage for electric, gas, and oil, and we encourage that you definitely put in the water, but it doesn't affect the score. Okay, so if there's any questions with that, we can follow up with that after. And then finally, there's renewable energy certificates that you can go for. So here's where you start with adding a facility space. And so the most important thing here is naming that area. And so right here you enter the name, and we happen to be naming this Office 101. And then in the select a space type, there's a drop-down box, and then when you're online, you see all the different the spaces that you have there, and that, as I read them before, they're all clearly marked there. And then also the date, and the date that your space actually went into effect, but it does get populated to the first of the year. So that's just a default that Energy Star does, and then you, of course, press your continue. Okay, so then it comes to really adding all your attributes. And I want to just stress here that it is key to make sure that you have the right information. Now, I know Energy Star now has a sheet that has almost like a questionnaire with all the pertinent information that you have to fill in about the building. And so this is all pre-filled, but this is where you would then add, this happens to be the gross floor area, and you put that in. You have to be as exact as possible, and I can give you just an example that when that doesn't happen, it really skews everything. So it's very important to have the specific information. And so if you're working with anyone else, like a facility guy, it's important to make sure that everything is really measured exactly. And then another important thing here, and I can be the first to admit that I've done this and not saved, and then you lose everything that you put in. So it's really important to save. Okay, so now you're back to this screen that we went over with all the information, and here is your space type. And in this case, we're just entering the 1 to give you that example, but you have all your information in that. And it's good to note that you can delete a space type if for some reason you find out you don't want to have it in there for whatever reason. You can definitely do that. And there's other general facility administration and sharing data. It's good to know that if you have an engineering firm that wants to come in and work with you to audit your building, and you want to share this because you've already populated it all, you can actually do that at this point. We're not going to go through that today, but there are tutorials that will help you with that. Okay, so now we're going to do the energy meter. And what's really important about this is I have always found that if you have, especially in your buildings, multiple meters, it's really important to, in fact, let's go to the next screen. It's really important when you're naming that meter, this happens to be Electric 101, that you put in the meter number. And on your, let's talk about an electric bill, there is a meter number there. And if you add that, because again, a good reason for that is if you have multiple meters in your building, you're able to really distinguish which ones those are. So that's a key thing that I like to point out. And the selection meter type is electricity. That's a drop down. And you have a whole list of electricity, gas, that sort of thing. And then grid purchase. This is something that typically is almost like a default. I think that's, I can check that and get back to you on that one. I'm pretty sure that is a default. And then the units are kWh for electric. There's a whole, in this drop-down box when you're on the site, there's a whole bunch of units, measures that show, for example, therms for gas that you'll see in a few slides ahead. And it's just really important to look on that utility bill and see what they're describing there for you, and it usually is definitely on that, and you'd be able to know that you're working with kWh for the electric.
So if you have multiple meters, you're going to enter this information under 101. How do you go back to enter 100 or 102? Where do you go back to do that?
There's actually a piece back in one of the screens, and we didn't want to get into the live in that major detail, but there is an area there that you can go in, and it will say add a meter. And in that tutorial that I talked about before, it shows you step by step about that. And if you want, after the session, I can talk with you a little bit about it to get you where that is.
I have a building at an address that has an old building and then an addition that was put on. So it has two separate services. So when I enter that, I would enter it as 1 meter under the same.
That first screen that I showed you?
The second meter?
Yeah.
Okay, under that same address.
And you name your meter.
Okay.
And each meter will then have that distinction.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
and I can show you where that is.
that.
In fact, give me your card, and we can do it, if you don't have time this evening. I can show you, actually, in the tutorial, it's very clear.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So, in this case now, you're going to add your months. And this is where I really want to call your attention. because it's pretty straightforward, and I really say, for me, it's pretty easy to do this, but sometimes you have to really watch the months, and I think now they're populating it automatically, so when you put in, again, you can put in 12 to 48 months, right? And in this case, they're putting in the 12, and the start date is 10/10/2009, and then you want to just press continue. That just is a screen that follows. So now all of these dates have been populated in, and I want to call, I wish I could step away from the podium because I want to get over there to really read the date, even with my progressive glasses here. But 10/10/2009 to 11/9. So it's usually within that one day. And if you look at your utility bill, you'll see that it's following in that same process. So I remember way back when they were first doing this, and we started a long time ago with that, you really had to be careful because sometimes it just ended up skewing that information that came in. And so here's your the dates and then the usage, and this automatically will give you your score, but we also encourage that you put in your costs. It isn't something that affects your score at all, but your costs will then help you tally any of your cost savings or just keeping your budget. So I think it's important. I know when we first started we were doing just the usage, but it's really important to do the costs as well. But again, the only thing that's affecting your score is that usage.
Are you just entering the energy cost or energy plus transmission costs?
It's just the energy cost, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the transmission, I don't believe that's part of it, but I can find that out for you. I think it was a total amount on your bill. That's what I always entered. So it may be that.
There would be energy plus transmission.
Yeah, it is the total amount on your bill, so pardon me for that. And so then again, what are we doing? We're going to save it. Okay, and so now we're going to go back in and we're going to add another meter, and I just want you to see, keep losing my thing here. Here's the electric, and it's all back on this page. You got your space and your electric meter, and everything is coming across here. And in fact, I don't think we have, oh yeah, no, we do have a score that's come in, even after entering just that one. So you'll get your score because it's populating behind the scenes. And the thing is, not until you enter all of your utility data can you go on what that score is. Okay, so that's just really that summary of that. Okay, so here we,
Automatically take you to the gas?
after you've entered your electric, you're going to go back in and now add another meter. Okay, and so that at that point you're going to put in your natural gas and define that with the number as well, and that's usually right on your gas bill. And then the energy type, that's a drop down, and the type of unit, that's a drop down, and you got to be really careful on the gas side. Okay, normally it is the therms that you have on your gas bill, but that's another area that you just have to pay attention to. Okay,
You'll have your bills, or your utility bills probably.
right in front of you.
Right.
And some commercial buildings have summarized bills, so you may have to go back in. I'm sure with a summarized bill, the folks that work in your building are definitely keeping track of that on spreadsheets for the individual. So, but yeah, for the summarized bills, they can get that data at the utility companies for you.
You get it online easily, right?
Yeah, I think you can, yes. Okay. So here we go. I want to make sure I didn't skip back. Here we go with the gas, and now we're entering the same process with your dates, the usage, and the costs weren't added here, but I really encourage that. I have to repeat that again because I really think it's important to put that in, just for all of your budgetary reasons. So that's pretty straightforward. So now you have your office space entered, you have your electric and your gas, and let's go, can we see the score? No, we can't see it. But the score should be coming in, you're getting more of that usage data in there, and that top bar there in the facility performance is really populating and getting the information for you. Okay. And that's it. We wanted to give you a really overview of this. And I strongly encourage those that haven't taken the tutorial that you do that. You can go to that www.energystar.gov/benchmark, and that's going to get you in to then create your log on and all of that. And then I also encourage you to give me a call if you'd like, and I can follow up with any questions that you may have. Any questions right now?
I got one. So can you elaborate on the requirements of the spaces? So you've got, in this example, office space, which is 100% of your building. Will you get a more refined or better score if you break that up into more detailed summaries of hallways and
Oh, yes.
circulation space? So the intent is you don't do it, do you do it to the level of each individual room?
You can. Yes, you can.
So what's the best way to do it?
Well, I think when you're adding your space, you're going to add another space to that, okay? And there's areas in that area that I showed you that have another area that you can add the separate spaces. And when you click on the drop-down, it shows you those type of spaces.
So it's up to us whether we want to input every single office in the space or whether we want to summarize them together into general space.
That's correct, right? That's,
Depends
yeah.
on the meters, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some value in trying to, just like general categories of spaces, so like in a multifamily, you might want to divide up common areas from tenant spaces, but I think to go to the level of each individual office, unless they're separately metered, it doesn't have a lot of value.
So you're grouping types of space.
Right. The big thing is if you have large unconditioned spaces, you might not want to include those in the square footages, because again, the energy intensities are calculated from the square footages. So if you have large unconditioned spaces or garage spaces or things like that, computer rooms, things that have a really different kind of footprint, then you might, I would suggest that you pull those out.
So you would break out like a data center.
Definitely.
Right, and you'd also, you have a warehouse, you want that separately because it's going to have, and then a garage, obviously even more so.
Right. You might even want to treat those separately as separate facilities if
Yes.
they're really, really different kinds
So they'd be
of
building 101,
facilities.
102, 103?
You could have multiple buildings.
Yes.
Anita, did you say something about energy credits or something like that? Earlier in the
Yes, and you know what? That wasn't part of this presentation, but I can get information for you, and we can talk about that out of this presentation, okay? The one thing I want to call your attention to is, and I brought copies, is the quick reference guide. You can take that with you tonight. And again, once you go through that and take that tutorial, I can, jot down that information, or we can definitely get that to you if you want to give me your business card. I think it's really important to do that. I was actually practicing with that, and it's really helpful because it gets really into the meat of it all. And tonight I just couldn't get into every single detail like that. So
regarding LEED, so in order, having an Energy Star of a certain level is a requirement to even apply for LEED, yes?
now say that again.
To apply for a LEED credit.
Yes.
Or certification.
You should have
You need a minimal Energy Star rating.
That's correct.
75?
75 or above.
So two questions for you. The first is how are building operators using this data to improve the function of their buildings?
Good question. So what happens is once you get that gauge, then I think another next step would be to have an energy audit of that building. And so they're going to then start looking at your lighting, your motors, your equipment. And I think at that point, when you get the Energy Star rating, and then you have that, then they can give you a report that's more valid of the things that you should be doing, and writing a report that would then be a good step process for you to improve your building. And a lot of people jump right on the lighting, and they get that done because it's really a low-hanging fruit. But I think it's really good to look at your building as a whole and really work within your budgetary concerns to make sure that you're doing that. And typically what happens when you work with your utilities, you're going to get incentives back for a lot of the projects if it qualifies. So I think you're seeing a lot more people benchmarking their buildings and then moving ahead in that process.
Do you encourage people to continue entering their data so that they can see their
Oh,
performance?
yes.
So
Yeah,
it's
for
not just a
example,
one-time thing, it's
yes, definitely. So if you go in and you benchmark and then you have a lighting project completed, probably within several months after that, you're going to see a drop on your utility bill. But if you're keeping track with this and entering your data in Portfolio Manager, that's where you saw that graph at the very beginning, or and it really showed that improvement since 2000 to 2010.
Okay, and my follow-up question is, what is the EPA doing with all this data?
Well, I know they're populating it, and they're certainly, I mean, obviously they're populating it. Everything, by the way, is very, very confidential. So never worry that the information that you're going in would go on some list. They're very careful about all that. I think, they're continuing to work on improvements at EPA Energy Star. So, I think you'll see, for example, they just added the multifamily, they just added the worship, the house of worship. So you're going to see improvements that way. And I think, getting back to what you're asking, I think it probably is to go on Department of Energy and just what, nationally we're doing to save energy.
I think if I could, this is.
Yeah, that's probably your deal.
To me, if anyone has any other questions or
Yeah, you can see me
Can I
after.
just ask one more? What percentage of buildings that could apply for Energy Star actually have applied for it? Is it 10%, 20%, 50%? Do we have any idea what percentage of buildings have actually gone on potential?
I know that I had a statistic that, am I losing it?
You're fine.
Okay. I had a statistic in my presentation, let me see if I can find it, that had how many buildings have benchmarked and how many buildings, and I want to say it was like over 200,000 buildings were benchmarked till, I think, 2010, because that's what they're going on all of their information.
That's a small percentage of the total potential, or is it pretty big?
I can get that answer for you.
I'm curious.
Yeah, and I know that it's on the site, because I went by it when I was reviewing. So I will definitely get that.
And I'll take over.
Can I just say one other thing? To your
Sure.
point, there's a lot of really good reporting capabilities in
Oh, thanks,
Portfolio
Eileen.
Manager. They've just really upgraded the whole reporting component. And so there's a lot of year-over-year trending that you can do and things like that. So to continue to add your data, there's a lot of ways that you can look at both your performance compared to others across the country, normalized for weather and other factors, but also how you can benchmark against yourself over time.
It's also being mandated by various states at this point. So
Good point.
in some states, you have to put your information in. And so it's good to be proactive.
Yes, it sure is. Thank you, thanks. Thank you, everyone.
IFMA also saw the need for us to organize this information and make it public to people. So through IFMA, they've decided, they've joined with the EPA because they saw the importance of tracking and benchmarking this information. As you can see on the slide here, everything is organized by building type, square footage. So this is a way for you to come on, look at your facility and say, okay, I have an office with X amount of square feet and see the energy usage across the board. As you go through and you're setting up your building for the Energy Star portfolio management, there's an option to click to share this information with IFMA. And by doing that, you allow them to come in, calculate, grab your information, and provide a spreadsheet for people to go on and to view this. None of your company information will be made public. As you can see, it's just listed as office, but it will provide a start for people to come in and look at their buildings and see reasons why they should go through these initiatives and lower their energy use. This is also a great program through IFMA because previously, as we talked about, some facilities aren't allowed a rating system. So there's no way for you to go and compare your building to other facilities. And by using this through IFMA and sharing that information, you're allowed to go in and view your facility that might not be otherwise allowed to have a rating system. So this kind of goes to our next slide, which is the how-to guides. IFMA has put out a series of how-to guides to show you can see here, EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager takes you through step-by-step exactly what Anita just went through. And they also have other guides out, no-cost, low-cost energy savings guides that give you case studies, give you examples of how you can use these in your own facilities. And this kind of gets us to the whole Be a Star, slide that we saw earlier. We urge you to go in and sign up and share this information with IFMA. And to do that, it's simple. You just click the button and you're sharing the information. You'll get acknowledgement. You'll get acknowledgement from the industry. The Boston chapter itself is holding this little challenge, as well as this challenge is going on nationally. So if you enter in your facilities, in the Boston chapter, we have Bentley and Harvard Business Publishing in the race right now. So you could take the lead, since there's only 2 people involved, if you were if you wanted to. You will be acknowledged if you win nationally at Facility Fusion in the spring. It's in Chicago. And you'll also be receive an award at our award ceremony in May. So you'll be able to come with a guest if you are the one to lower your energy usage the most. And all that data we'll be collecting and tracing it, and we can provide for you too, so you can track yourself along the way.
Well, this is gonna give you a nice bragging rights if you.
Yeah, I told a few of my clients that I'll do it for free, and we'll have cost savings between us, and then I can get the award at the end and look like a hero. So that's your incentive, really. Industry recognition, as well as within your own companies. If it's you that owns the building, you're saving yourself money, and if it's you in your workplace that's doing it, you're saving it for your company, and there's value added there. So the IFMA Sustainability Committee, we actually brought you this event here tonight along with Chapman. Thank you to everyone here at Chapman. They did a great job, and Anita. We want to bring you more events like this, provide you with educational events, as well as roundtable discussions for you to come in and talk about what you're doing in your facilities, what's working, what's not working, and just have an open forum for you. So look out for upcoming events. If you want any more information about IFMA, feel free to talk to me about it. And all those how-to guides, too, that I mentioned earlier, they're all available for free off the website. It's ifma.org. They're all there for you to download. And I think that's pretty much it. That's, in summary, I think. Oh, and here you go. There's you being recognized at Facility Fusion, a beautiful photograph there, and also at, that's the awards banquet from last year. So.
Be an award for May and the awards of excellence?
Yes. An Energy Cup if people get involved, but if nobody gets involved, we can't really give an award. So we urge you.
I would just like to suggest that if any of you have a suggestion of something that you would like discussed in a roundtable with regard to energy and sustainability, to email Molly or myself or Rob and let us know. We're interested in what's out there and what's interesting to you, and where you've succeeded or where you've tried and you failed. I mean, that's just as interesting. So get in touch with us, please.
Are there any questions about anything that I said? No? Okay. Thanks, Guy.
Well, thank you, Anita, and thank you, Molly, and thank everybody for coming today. I urge you to stay for a little while and have some refreshments outside. We're free to take you on a tour of our building if you haven't been here before. All of this information will be available on our website in a short while, and you can also contact Molly, myself, Courtney, or Anita, and feel free to take some information. So we thank everybody for coming today. Hope you enjoyed our presentation.
I have that information.
Hello, Francine. How are you? We spent 15 minutes